Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you with Toad Stool Sports Super Bowl Sunday, February 8th. Yesterday we did not do well on the show, 2-3. It started out nice with an easy Utah cover. It was exactly what I thought. Kansas not putting up a ton of offense, win and non-cover from Kansas basically the whole way. I think it was a wire-to-wire cover for Utah. Northwestern State played a just monstrously ugly, low-scoring game, and they wound up not being able to cover that. You might have been able to get a 2 on that instead of a 1.5, but they lost by 4. They didn't even get 50 points and still only lost by 4. That game was horrible. And then Seattle absolutely blew it. I am absolutely not happy about that at all. Seattle was winning that game by margin throughout the middle of the game. It wasn't a high-scoring enough game, but they blew the game. I think they lost the game outright, and they were winning the game probably by double digits in the middle of the game. I was like, all right, this is going well. They were still winning by several points pretty late in the game. Absolute implosion from Seattle, even though they're known for having a good defense. I'm not happy. And then we did have Pacific was an easy win. So one of the West Coast Conference games got there. That was a laugher. Then the Atlanta Hawks also blew it for me. So all 3 losses were close. The Hawks never had a huge lead in the game or anything like that, but they did lead for various points in the game. The game was close down the stretch. They definitely had chances to do it, and they did not. So, we're going to move on from that. I guess if things are rigged, I guess I shouldn't have had the Hawks yesterday. I just like the situation, but if you think about it, people were pointing out yesterday how the George Mason Patriots beat the St. Joe's Hawks. Patriots over Hawks. Then that game, you had Charlotte Hornets, Drake Maye went to North Carolina, beating the Hawks. North Carolina over the Hawks. I don't know, man. I don't know. Is everything rigged? I don't know. We'll find out today. I gave you my Super Bowl plays already. I will reiterate them in this show, but go watch my Super Bowl show. It's not too long. It's like an hour, I think. You have time to do it if you want to go see my actual analysis on that. I'll do a really quick breakdown of all of them at the end of the show here. I did add one more play as well, I think 2 days ago, one more prop. So I'll talk about that and how I break it all down. I'm going to add one college basketball play, and that'll be it. There's a short NBA card as well, which I'm going to avoid. But there is one big game. The Celtics are playing a pretty big game today, so there is that. Alexander, what's up, man? It is not West Virginia, although I probably agree with that. Garrett, what's up, man? Yes, you must be happy about that. The Duke implosion and North Carolina getting the win. I'd be looking to fade North Carolina in their next game. I don't even know what it is, but that's what I'm going to be looking to do. That was a monster win, obviously. And then you have John Shire being a baby. All he does is go out there and complain about court storming. every time it happens to them. It's like, okay, well then don't lose the game. Like, you're the better team. You have a big lead in the game. How about you don't lose? And then you don't have to worry about it. It's stupid. Really, really stupid. Kyle, what's up? The Dolphins, yeah, they're absolute ass. I am sort of neutral on the Patriots at this point. I hate their fan base, but I like Drake Maye, but we're going to go with we're going with the Patriots because that's my play for today. I did actually bet it as well. Even though you know me, I'm waiting to have my funds freed up and figure out what I'm really going to actually do, but I did actually put money on the Patriots side. What's Zipper? What? I do not purchase from Fanatics. Let's just put it that way. This is from another place where I can get the same quality, possibly better, at wholesale for like $30. So that's where this is from. And it's still got the stitched on numbers and everything. I don't know. You can tell me if you think it looks any worse than a Fanatics jersey. Fanatics are a scam. They do also have a sports book that's available here in Mass. Shire, yeah, he's a baby. Let's get into this, man. College basketball. I'm going to try to run through this. The first game up is a pretty good game in the American Conference between what I think are the two best teams in that conference, Tulsa and South Florida. Both teams are going to show up for this game. I think there's pretty much no question about that, although Tulsa did just beat FAU in their last game, so they're playing a second straight road game, coming off a pretty good road win there, so that type of setup isn't great, but I do think they will show up, and one big part of this handicap is Tulsa. I believe they were a small favorite in the first game at home against South Florida, and they lost the game by double digits, so there is a little bit of a road revenge angle here. Really, it would be that Tulsa knows what went wrong in that game, and they'd be able to make the adjustments. Maybe that will be what happens here. South Florida, they are not going to overlook this game either, though. South Florida's coming off an easy win over UTSA, so the situational setup based on what these teams did in the last game is actually better for South Florida. One other thing is that people are going to see Tulsa as this really pretty-looking record, yet South Florida's a 3.5-point favorite here because they're getting a decent amount of home court. I do actually think Tulsa is the better team, but it's not by a significant margin. So this line is, I would say it's maybe slightly high, but it is something to take note of when the team with the worst record has a favorite price attached to them. That is usually something to look at. However, in this game, I think I would lean to Tulsa just because of the avenging road underdog angle is pretty strong, and the market does seem to be agreeing with it. And I think they're the better team, and I think the line might be slightly high. I think you're going to get an effort out of them, and if they change some things up from the first game, South Florida might not know what Tulsa's about to do, which is why that zigzag, if you will, does work more often than it doesn't. 70% of the tickets are on South Florida, 66% of the cash on Tulsa. I'll agree with Tulsa, plus the points in that one. South Florida is looking like they're teetering on being a 4-point favorite there. Yes, sir. Jay Forte, what's up, man? Yes, thanks for hanging out, everybody. Dirty Sock, what's up, man? All right. That's on ESPNU, by the way, at noon. All the games are in the afternoon because the Super Bowl gets the wide open TV spot, obviously, man. No sports can go on during the Super Bowl, so all the basketball is done by 5 p.m. or so. Also at noon, USC at Penn State on the Big Ten Network. Really great representation of the Big Ten here. USC coming off a really nice win over Indiana. That was a win that I gave out on the show. Nice spot to play USC in that one. We got it right. Now they're going on the road to Penn State. I know Penn State's bad, but there is the potential that USC is going to overlook this game because they do have Ohio State on deck. USC, Ohio State, they're both kind of tournament bubble teams right now. Illinois on deck after that when they return home. Big win over Indiana they're coming off of, which Indiana's another bubble team. So USC does kind of need to notch these wins. Like, it would be very good for them to notch these wins against these bubble teams. Not that, I mean, if they lose to Penn State, that's obviously not going to be good for their resume either. But there is definitely the chance they can overlook this game. Penn State, they're definitely bad. They got that win, which was another win that I gave out on the show against Minnesota. That was their first conference win. I thought that might kind of get that monkey off their back, give them some momentum. Of course, they were not going to win at Michigan, but they got absolutely destroyed at Michigan, losing 110-69. Anytime you lose like that to anybody, I know it's one of the best teams in the country, but I think you do show up with some sense of pride after you, you've got to show up and try to do better than that after a game like that. Nobody wants to lose to that extent to anybody. So I like Penn State in this game, plus the points. USC only a 3.5-point favorite, 4-point favorite. It looks way too easy to play USC based on these teams' records, so that is not what I would do. Again, it's also a pretty unfamiliar venue for them because they're new to the Big Ten. I don't even know if they've played at Penn State since they've started participating in the Big Ten, so definitely not a familiar venue for them at the very least. 93% of tickets, 94% of the cash on USC. They're going to be a heavily public side. Looks too easy. A lot, when things look too easy, a lot of times they are not, although there are some situations where I will actually agree with that side if there's a strong situation, but that is not one of them. The situation, in fact, I think is negative for USC in that one, so lean Penn State plus the points. CBS has the classic football rivalry, part 2 in basketball. Number 2 Michigan at Ohio State. Ohio State played pretty well at Michigan already, covering but losing the game, losing by 12 at Michigan. No shame in that, man. I think Ohio State will show up in this game as well. Of course, they get to host Michigan now in a little bit of revenge, but maybe because they played pretty competitively against Michigan, maybe Michigan will take them seriously as well. Ohio State coming in off an easy win at Maryland. Maryland is absolutely terrible. Maybe worse than Penn State, to be honest. I don't know. I'd have to see Ken Baum's power ratings on that, but I just don't care right now. Michigan coming off that win where they looked really good, even though it was against Penn State, putting up 110 points. I mean, everybody's going to want to be on a team when they just scored 110 points, man. So I think Michigan's going to be the public side here. Not really a strong opinion here, but I would probably have to lean to taking the points with Ohio State, although, like I said, because Ohio State did cover barely against Michigan in the other game, maybe that means Michigan will take them a bit more seriously, but still, I don't know, man, because it was still a double-digit win for Michigan. So Michigan up from 9 to 10.5 here, but 77% of tickets, only 71% of the cash on Michigan. The percentages just changed to start agreeing with me, by the way. I'd probably take the points, but again, not a strong opinion there. Fox, here's your Texas Tech, West Virginia game here. Number 13, Texas Tech at West Virginia. Laying not a huge price with Texas Tech. Does look somewhat easy to do here, but remember West Virginia, they play a really, really slow brand of basketball, even slower than under the Huggins era with what's-his-face from North Texas there. Very, very slow basketball from West Virginia. They play a lot of ugly, low-scoring games, which is good. When you want them as a home underdog, that's a good thing because they get involved in these just monstrously ugly games. The total's 136 with money looking like it's coming in on the under. So I probably wouldn't disagree with the under either. I think you're getting two teams that are pretty good on the defensive end here. Although maybe that's just my perception of Texas Tech from years past. Actually, yeah, I keep forgetting that. Texas Tech is actually better on offense this year than defense. And they play like a mid-tempo, but I do think West Virginia is going to be able to slow this thing down to a crawl. And Texas Tech is coming off a big game, primetime loss to Kansas. They did lose the favorite, but that type of loss, a big game like that, that can hang you over. And having to go to Morgantown, bit of a weird travel spot. Now, I wish they had Arizona up next in their next game because then we'd be looking at a sandwich. I might be on West Virginia if that was the case, but they do have Colorado mixed in there, so I'm not going to do it, but I would agree with West Virginia plus the points in this one. It'll be a big game for them hosting Texas Tech at home. I don't believe these teams have played otherwise this year, and I think this is the only time they play this year. West Virginia coming up another one of their patented hideous games, or I said that game was probably going to be an under against Cincinnati. Cincinnati just can't score, man. West Virginia went in there and beat them. Decent win for West Virginia there, but they'll show up for a home game against Texas Tech. And nobody will want West Virginia because they play these hideous games. In that game, neither team even got to 60. So, yeah, West Virginia would be my lean in that one. They're getting 6 now from Texas Tech. 85% of the tickets and 86% of the cash on Texas Tech. They're going to be the public side. Like I said, Texas Tech will be. So, yes, West Virginia would be a lean there. My best bet in college basketball is next. And this one is, I know we're going to be on a really, really bad team here, but I think the number is pretty big and the situation calls for this. We're going to go on with UNC-Greensboro plus 12.5. Ken Baum, I believe, has this number at 11. It goes to 11. So that is fine with me, even though, yes, I know if you look at Ken Baum's numbers, I know we're fading Furman here, and Furman is the better team. He's got Furman, just pretty much in the middle of the pack everywhere. Offense, defense, they're balanced. They play on the slower side of things. They were a little bit lucky, according to Ken Baum. But I know if you look at Greensboro, their offense is not that much worse than Furman's, but their defense is absolutely miserable, like bottom 15 defense. I know I don't usually like teams like that, but again, I think the number's too high and the situation calls for this. Both teams play slow, so again, that might mean that points might be a little bit more difficult to come by in this game, even though I know the total is at about 150, so it's not exactly a low total, and that's because Greensboro can't stop opposing offenses. They are also on the luckier side of things, which worries me. I know Greensboro, Ken Baum is telling you they've overperformed, although he is telling you Furman has overperformed as well. Now, for UNC Greensboro, I think the setup is fine because they just broke a 3-game losing streak with a home win over a Western Carolina team that has pulled off some upsets in the SoCon here this year, the Southern Conference, but they're not a very good team. So I think that's just a good win in that UNC Greensboro will break that losing momentum and carry it forward. Now they're playing Furman. Furman already went into UNC Greensboro and embarrassed them by 23 points. And you know what I say about that. When you have an avenging road underdog in the second meeting, I do like to look that way because the team that went into their place and beat them, especially if they're a big favorite, if they went in and they just crushed that other team on their own floor, they're going to overlook that team more often than not. And the team that got crushed might be able to make the adjustments or whatever. So I know UNC Greensboro is way down this year, but I think they'll get up for this game for those reasons. And I think it's going to be really easy for Furman to overlook this, especially when you see what Furman just did. They just lost a 3-game win streak. I talk about sometimes when you lose a win streak, you'll be hungover. But look at what the game was where they lost that streak. They had to go to East Tennessee State, the top team in the conference. They took them into overtime on the road and fell just short. So I think they're going to be in a flat spot after that, man. This has like hangover, letdown, whatever you want to call it, written all over this thing. Furman was winning this game too. Like they had East Tennessee pretty much dead to rights. Furman was winning this game by double digits in the second half, and they fell apart, lost the game in overtime. That's just absolutely brutal for Furman, man. And they shot really well in the game, too. They shot 53% from the field in the game, which is part of the reason they were even in the game, because East Tennessee did have more possessions than they did. Although Furman did actually out-rebound them, oddly enough. It was a very strange box score in that game. But still, that was a huge game. Now they get this UNC Greensboro team who they already embarrassed on the road. And up next, they got to play Mercer, who is legitimately one of the better teams in this conference as well, and is right behind them in the standings, although they did beat Mercer already once, but only by 2 at home. So that's a bigger game up next, man, against Mercer. So we have a sandwich spot here, plus an avenging road underdog angle here. UNC Greensboro will be the play here. Looks like the cash is not really agreeing with me on this one right now. 69% of the tickets and 85% of the cash on Furman. But this is what we're going with. This is my situational read. This is where it leads me. This is my only non-Super Bowl play of the day. It'll wet your palate before the Super Bowl. UNC Greensboro plus the points is the play. All right. We have a few games that are not actually on TV, but all the non-TV ones are on ESPN+. Wichita at Tulane in the American. It's not the greatest game, but I do think Wichita is a bit under the radar still. They just beat Charlotte, although I've been talking about how Charlotte is just a complete fraud. Like, the fact that they're up here, top 4 in the conference standings, BS. They're not good at all. But Wichita just beat them. That should be a win that'll just give them momentum coming into this. I think they'll show up for this game, but the problem is they do have South Florida and Tulsa on deck. So there is the worry about the look ahead there for Wichita because those are going to be huge games against what I think are the best two teams in this conference. Tulane is not really that good, so there is the potential that Tulane is overlookable here. Tulane's coming off a nice road win at Memphis, though. I know Memphis might be a little bit down this year, but Memphis was definitely a favorite. I think a fairly substantial favorite, although I said that I leaned to Tulane in that game. They pulled off the outright win. I think they were about 8.5-point underdogs in that one. So they are coming off a pretty big upset. So that kind of puts Tulane in what I think is maybe a letdown spot here. Because maybe they just don't care that much about another team that's in the middle of the pack that doesn't have the gravitas that Memphis does in this conference, if you know what I mean. That did break a losing streak for Tulane, though. They lost 5 games in a row. So sometimes when you break a losing streak, that will propel you into the next game. I just, based on the spot, there is the worry about the look ahead, but I don't want to play a Tulane team that is coming off an upset like that. So I would lean to Wichita. They're laying 3.5 on the road. They're laying that for a reason. They are the better team, fairly substantially. Tulane is also setting up to look like a public underdog here, a very dreaded public home underdog, which is not what you want. 80% of the tickets and only 59% of the cash on Tulane, so I would want to fade them when I see a market read like that as well. Public thinking that there's value taking the points. Oh, Tulane, the record isn't that much worse. Yeah, but the odds makers are telling you Wichita is the significantly better team there. And so is Memphis against Charlotte, by the way, which is the next game here. Not a great game, although Charlotte, again, is up here in the American standings. They're just not actually that good, man. They made a run through. They've beaten a lot of the bad teams in this conference, man. Like, they mostly have just beaten the doormats of the conference. They already played Rice twice. They beat UTSA, East Carolina, an overrated Tulane team at home. And then a good win at Tulsa for sure. Or not Tulsa, Temple. They're not going to beat Tulsa. They did win at Temple. That's a decent win. And they beat Wichita at home, which is an all right win as well. But I'm not impressed by this Charlotte resume. They did just lose a 4-game win streak with that loss to Wichita. Second straight road game here. Sure, they'll probably get up for a game against Memphis because everybody does. Memphis is coming off a nice road win against UAB, so there is that. But I don't know if that's going to put Memphis in a letdown spot, really. I think I would probably lean to Memphis here. Looking at the line, it just kind of looks ridiculous. Like, why would the team with the lesser record be laying almost 10 points? Well, that's, again, because the odds makers are telling you who the better team really is here, and that is Memphis by a decent margin, despite what their record looks like. They had a more difficult out-of-conference schedule, etc. So I would probably lean to Memphis here. It's not a situation where I think it's like really horrible for them or anything. 60% of the tickets and 65% of the cash on Charlotte, though, with Memphis laying 8.5 right now. So that's the market read there, slightly disagreeing with Memphis. CBS Sports, 2 p.m. has this Big 12 game between UCF and Cincinnati. These teams did already play once. UCF won by 1 at home and didn't cover. And I did like Cincinnati in that game to cover, which they did. Now, UCF is having to play a second straight road game, and they did just have to go to Houston, coming off that big win over Texas Tech. They were not able to, and that was a win for us, by the way, with UCF over Texas Tech. They were not able to maintain that effort 2 straight games. I was not surprised by that, really. Now they're coming off of that game. Still might be a bit of a difficult spot, having to play these big games like this. And they did, again, still already beat Cincinnati. Although it was a close game where maybe they will still take Cincinnati seriously because Cincinnati did give them a close game. Cincinnati is coming off that ugly home loss and just staying at home, though. Ugly loss to West Virginia, I should say. I think the spot does set up better for Cincinnati here, and they're laying points, which just looks crazy. I mean, I don't know that I want to lay points really ever with Cincinnati because they just can't score, but they are good on the defensive end. But there's a reason why they're laying points here against a UCF team that is likely to make the tournament at this point. Like, why would Cincinnati, who has this bad record, be laying 3.5, right? Like, the public will be all over UCF getting the points in this one. Looks like they are. 93% of the tickets on Central Florida, 86% of the cash. I'd lean Cincinnati, fade the public in that one. These public underdogs are they're like they're a total red flag, man, that you definitely want to stay away from. But it's a game I'm just going to avoid. Maryland at Minnesota on the Big Ten Network. I don't know if I could bring myself to give out a play on Maryland, man. I'm avoiding the game. Maryland is just really, really bad, but you got to think they're going to show up for some of these games. Like, nobody wants to keep losing by 20, 30 points every game. Maryland is awful, but I think maybe they'll be able to hang in this game against Minnesota. We had Minnesota in their last game. They caught Michigan State in a really good spot to catch them. Michigan State was in a big-time sandwich spot. We got the win with Minnesota. They won outright. That was a monster win for Minnesota, beating Michigan State at home as 9-point underdogs. So staying at home, this does look like a flat spot for Minnesota. They do have to go out to California after this, too, although I don't know how big that really is because Washington and Oregon are not good this year. So it's not really a look ahead, really. I think it is simply a letdown spot, though. And Minnesota does play slow, and they don't score a lot. So Minnesota, asking them to lay points like this is not really a great thing for Minnesota. And, I also don't like when a team was a huge anti-public underdog one game, like Minnesota was against Michigan State, and now they're like a public favorite in the next game. That's a red flag, too, where you probably want to fade that team, like just completely shifting roles from one game to the next. So I would have to play Maryland in this game if I was going to play it. I would take the points with Maryland. Doesn't make my card, though. Minnesota down from 9 to 8.5. 72% of the tickets on Minnesota. 55% of the cash on Maryland, though. If I was going to add any other game, it would be this one, though. It's real ugly. But, yeah, this is my second strongest opinion would be Maryland plus the points. The total is pretty low at 139. Rice and UAB, probably the worst of all the games on TV today, at least from a college basketball perspective. Rice did just beat North Texas. They're down this year. They'll probably show up for a game at UAB. UAB's been a decent team in this conference for the most part. UAB coming off a tough game against Memphis. They did lose by 10, though, at home. But they also do have Tulsa up next, and that's going to be a revenge game, too. Tulsa beat them at UAB, so UAB may be in a look ahead here as well. I would probably have to lean Rice in this one. UAB's laying 8.5. They have 88% of the tickets, 99% of the cash, it looks like for now, but I don't know how much I really buy that percentage is accurate. I would be leaning towards Rice in that one. And then the last game on Fox Sports 1 is a Big Ten game between Northwestern and Iowa. And I think Northwestern is very undervalued, man. The fact that their record looks really bad. I keep saying that they're not as bad as their record looks. And they just got absolutely blasted by Illinois. And that unfortunately was a loss. I know I've been mentioning some winners that we've had on the show. That was a loser. We have losers here, too. I'm not going to lie about it. We had a losing day yesterday, too. But, yeah, Northwestern got absolutely annihilated by their big brother and rival, Illinois. Illinois is a very good team. But I thought that the spot was bad for Illinois. I thought Northwestern would put in a much better effort. They just couldn't hit anything, man. They couldn't hit any shots. So coming off of that, an embarrassing 40-point loss, I think they will show up in this game at Iowa, even though, yeah, they have Michigan next. But I don't think you're going to overlook whoever your next opponent is after you have a loss like that. Iowa comes into this with coming back from the Pacific Coast, so they do have travel involved here. They went out there and they beat Oregon and Washington. Not that impressive because Iowa's, of course, better than those two teams, but I don't know, man. That return from the Pacific Coast is still kind of a weird thing for these Big Ten teams to do. Unfortunately, they don't have a big game up next. They only have Maryland, but I would probably look towards taking the points with Northwestern in this one anyway. Iowa already dropped from 13.5 to 12 here. Don't see the percentages yet. Some of the value looks like it's a little bit gone here, but Iowa plays, we know, they're the Ben McCollum Iowa now. They're not the Iowa of the McCaffrey days where they just speed the game up and go really, really fast and score 100 points or whatever. No. Iowa goes really slow, and they might not even score 70 sometimes. That's what they do now. So laying 12 with them, total 139.5 against an underrated Northwestern team. Yeah, I would not want to do that with Iowa. I would take the points with Northwestern in that one. It's going to be difficult for Iowa to be able to cover a number like that. I think they'll probably win, but I would not want to, I would definitely fade them from a spread perspective there. All right, NBA, there are 4 games. I don't have anything in the NBA here, but I do have opinions, of course. The big game on ABC is Knicks and Celtics. Huge game, man. The Celtics might be playing with a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder here. The teams are 1-1 against each other this year with, I believe, the home team winning each game, if I'm not mistaken, which will make sense in a minute when I show you what the team's road and home records are. But the Celtics, because they lost to the Knicks in the playoffs last year, the Celtics might still have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder there. The Knicks beat the Celtics at home in the second game of the season, and the Celtics beat them in Boston in December. This game is in Boston. The Knicks are coming off a blowout loss to Detroit, and a lot of times I will like a team to bounce back from a blowout, and I liked Detroit in that game. Unfortunately, it was not a play that I gave out, but I was correct about Detroit in that one. The Knicks were coming off a double OT game against Denver, and I thought they might even look ahead to the Celtics game, to be honest, because it's a big TV game on Super Bowl Sunday, so it was kind of a bad spot for them. But now they're in a spot where they just lost a long win streak. They lost an 8-game win streak, and I talk about when teams lose really long win streaks like that, a lot of times they will be hung over in the next game. For the Celtics are coming off of a game where they were getting annihilated in this game by Miami. That was a win for me the other day, Friday night. My only play on Friday was Miami plus the points. That was a win on the show. Miami was beating the Celtics by 20 points in that game, man. Miami probably should have won the game, but the Celtics did what they do, and when they get punched in the mouth, the Celtics come back in a lot of games, man. They're able to erase huge deficits, even with their bench players. But on the other hand, when the Celtics get a big lead, they get complacent and blow big leads too. But that was a game where they were way behind. They came back and won, but having a really, really bad game like that as a favorite, and again, the reason why I faded the Celtics, they were coming off a huge upset of Houston with Brown not even playing in the game, and they had the Knicks on deck, so I'm like, it's going to be a sandwich spot there, and it was. But now the Celtics continued their momentum, which I think is good. They didn't lose their win streak. They got punched in the mouth, and they got a real scare out of Miami. And when a favorite gets a scare like that, I like to look at them in the next game. So I do prefer the Celtics in this game. And then if you look at the home-road splits, the Knicks, believe it or not, are just awful on the road. 11-13 straight up on the road. The Celtics are good at home. 17-8 straight up at home. I know you're going to be laying points with the Celtics here, but that is probably what I would do if I was going to play it. Interestingly, the odds makers are actually telling you the Celtics are the better team, which is really crazy to think about because, I don't know, I'm basically on record basically saying that I think the Knicks are the best team in the Eastern Conference. If the Celtics had Tatum, they probably would be, but I don't think Detroit is totally for real. I think Detroit is probably third. So it's very interesting to see the Celtics laying 4 here. And they're getting the money. 63% of the tickets, 75% of the cash on the Celtics. I'm not going to disagree with the market in this one. I'll have a slight opinion towards the Celtics. Hopefully they win as a Celtic fan. But the line being 4, I was like, the Knicks have to have injuries or something going on here, right? But it looks like the main guys that might be injured are all game-time decisions. So I expect all of them to play if they're going to be available, and that's Hart, Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns. They're all game-time decisions, but we'll see, man. Yeah, so Hart's questionable. Again, if somebody's questionable and they have this big game, Anunoby questionable, they're all going to try to play if they can, man. Yeah, all 3 of them are questionable. KAT's is an eye thing. I mean, I highly doubt that he doesn't play. Yeah, it's interesting that the line is 4 because that would seem to indicate there might be an injury on the Knicks side, but there doesn't really seem to be one. So those are my thoughts on that game. Jeff, what's up, man? Northwestern on the money line? It's possible. I mean, Iowa plays all these slow games that could be pretty close for comfort there. I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened. But it's not like a really, really horrific spot for Iowa or anything. Miami at Washington. Miami is coming off that huge performance against the Celtics, like I said. They went into Boston, and they had the Celtics totally on the ropes. I don't know how Miami blew the game, to be honest. They were winning the game by 20, I think, in the second half. They lose the game. That's a very deflating loss, man. When you have a good team on the ropes like that as an underdog and you fall just short, looks like a big-time hangover spot now. going to Washington. Unfortunately, Miami doesn't have a big game on deck. They play Utah tomorrow. They're in a Celtic pride sandwich, though, between Boston and Utah. The team's in that movie. But still, it looks like a flat spot where they may very well overlook the Wizards. The Wizards, though, they're on a back-to-back, so I don't know if I really want anything to do with the Wizards. And they're traveling back from New York, and they're playing a third game in 4 days, all in different cities, which isn't great. The Wizards got me that win against Detroit. I gave them out plus the points, and I said, whenever you take an underdog, just put a little bit on the money line, man. So the Wizards did get that one done for us on the show with that upset of Detroit. They were in a bad spot after that for sure. I just didn't know if laying 6 made a lot of sense with a team like the Nets there, but they did cover. So the Wizards are coming up a pretty ugly loss to the Nets yesterday. It was a bad spot for the Wizards. I would lean to the Wizards here because I think the spot is really bad for Miami, but I don't really want to get involved with a bad team on a back-to-back with travel. So I'll stay away, but I'd probably take the points with the Wizards if I was going to do anything with it. Heat have gone up from 10.5 to 11.5. They are public, 75% of the tickets, but 90% of the cash, it looks like right now, on the Heat as well. But I also think you might get a little bit extra line value on Washington, at least because they are on the back-to-back. The odds makers have to skew the number a little bit. So sometimes it is fine to actually be on the team on the back-to-back, even though I generally avoid it, just because I really do think it is not the greatest spot. But Miami is in a very bad spot off of that Celtics game. Stacks, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right, Indiana at Toronto. Indiana coming off a close loss to a Giannis-less Milwaukee team. It looks like they're now going to keep Giannis and try to rebuild the team around him. Giannis has not been happy, man. The team is just not playing well around him. They have some other pretty good players there, though. Like, I don't know. Like, they still have Portis, right? He's good. So I don't know. Indiana, they're coming off that loss to Milwaukee. Going to Toronto. They do have the Knicks on deck, but I don't really see them overlooking Toronto. They're probably not going to overlook anybody while they're mired in a 3-game losing streak. Toronto did just beat Chicago. They're staying at home here, but they have a couple of days off. So, yeah, they're rested, but they're coming off a decent win, and they have a big game on deck against Detroit. So, I don't really love Toronto in this game. I'd probably lean to taking the points with Indiana. The market seems like it does agree. Raptors are an 8.5-point favorite. 74% of the tickets on them and 66% of the cash. The other thing about the Raptors is you typically do want to fade them as a home favorite. They're actually not good at home, believe it or not. 15-12 straight up at home. And you're asking them to lay points like this. And if you look at their history this season, the Raptors are not good as a big favorite, a favorite in this price range. They have failed to cover the majority of the time, and they've lost some of those games outright too. So the Raptors do not do well as a big favorite. Indiana, though, they're 3-21 straight up on the road. That is really, really awful. So they are not a good road team at all. Actually decent at home, but horrible on the road. So I don't really want anything to do with Indiana either, although you don't need them to win the game. You just need them to cover. And then ESPN at 3 p.m. has Clippers and T-Wolves. Clippers, don't know when they're going to have Darius Garland. We'll have to figure that out. I guess the Clippers are coming off almost losing at Sacramento, so that might kind of shock them into focus here. They might have been looking ahead to Minnesota. I know the Clippers had come off that ugly loss to Cleveland right after the trade with them. Harden also did not play in that game for Cleveland. But, yeah, the Clippers, they bounced back, so they did get a win, but it was a win that probably scared them against Sacramento. And, again, maybe they were looking ahead to this. So I expect focus out of the Clippers coming into this one. Minnesota, they just lost at home to New Orleans, though, which is just a horrendous loss. And I did like New Orleans in that game. I told you. I just didn't love the spot for Minnesota. They were returning home from a road trip, and you know I always look to fade teams or just stay away when they're returning home. So they got caught in that spot. But when a team has a horrible game in the return home spot like that, they usually will do a lot better in the next game. So I think it's an okay spot for both teams, but you know, I might have to agree with laying it with the T-Wolves in this one, man. Although they're public, 70% of the tickets, only 66% of the cash on them, so the money is seemingly disagreeing with that. But 8.5-point favorites staying at home off of just an atrocious loss that was kind of explainable in a bad spot there. Yeah, I would probably have to lean to the T-Wolves unless there's some injury situation coming into play that would indicate that I shouldn't. I don't really think there is. And yeah, Garland still won't be there for the Clippers. Like basically for Minnesota, generally you're just like figuring out what is the status of Anthony Edwards pretty much. As long as he has continued to play, then we're fine. Yeah, he played in the game against New Orleans. He'll play tonight too, or today. So yeah, I think I would probably lean to the T-Wolves in that one, but the money seems to be disagreeing. Maybe thinking the T-Wolves are too heavy of a favorite. The Clippers have been like a professional side for a bit now. Like the professionals have basically they've been leaning towards the Clippers because the odds makers have been respecting the Clippers recently because they've been a lot better recently and they're better than their overall record looks. So they probably do deserve that amount of respect. But in this game, yeah, I just don't really like them. All right, and then we do have the Super Bowl where I already talked about it, so I'm not going to go in detail here. But, yeah, check out my Super Bowl special show for it. But, yes, so first off, we do have the New England Patriots. That'll be like, dude, don't overbet on anything, even if it's the Super Bowl. It's one game. Bet size appropriately. I would recommend making this a regular size bet, just the same that you bet on anything else pretty much. Or if you have like ranges, then that would depend on how strongly you feel about this. But don't bet more than you can afford, obviously. Bankroll it. Like basically, pretty much you're like heavier bet, like pretty much you should be betting like 1% of your entire bankroll basically is really kind of that's like the number that the professionals always throw out there. Like your 3-unit bet basically should be a 1%. And then if you have bets that you feel less strongly about, put a little bit less on those. And then the really strong ones, you go up to like 5 units. So it would be like, I guess on those, make them rare, but I guess on those you'd be going up to about 5% of your bankroll on those. Or no, not 5%. 5% would be insane. No, not 5%. I can't even do math anymore. What would it be? 2% maybe? No, not 1.5%. Something like that. I don't know. Whatever it would be. I'll do the math right now. I can't even, dude, I'm so out of it right now. It would be, yeah. It would be 1 2/3%, whatever that comes out to. But yes, you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Because it's on a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. All right. Anyway, we're on the Patriots here as a regular size bet. Plus the points, plus 5 or 4.5. Hopefully it doesn't matter. The prop bets, I'm going to give out some props, and those I recommend playing at like the smallest amount because you're going to have a number of props. You don't want to overdo it with the props, right? So I make each one of those about 1/3 of the normal size bet so that 3 props basically become one, like basically the monetary equivalent of one bet that I would make, So if I have 5 props, it becomes like one, it becomes 1 2/3 bets, basically, if that makes sense, which is what I did last year. But anyway, as far as the side is concerned, really this is about just the perception. I do think Seattle's the public side, although we see 57% of tickets, 58% of the cash on them. But everybody saw what happened last, right? And that's what the public looks at. They're going to look at the fact the Patriots' offense has been miserable. They looked horrible in that game in the AFC Championship. It was the worst game of all time and shouldn't have even been played. That's the narrative. Meanwhile, and the Patriots beat a backup quarterback and they beat bad offenses in the first couple of games of the playoffs and had the benefit of playing those dome teams outside in the cold. I know, I've been saying that too. That's true. But I think it's now the case where they're being an undervalued team, man. And everybody was also saying the NFC Championship was the de facto Super Bowl. Seahawks, Rams, whoever wins that game will just automatically win the Super Bowl. Like, that's basically been the narrative. And when you have a narrative like that out there, you want to fade it. I've seen it happen over and over again, man, and that's been the experience. When everybody is saying that this is the actual Super Bowl, that type of thing, you want to look towards the other team in the other side of that Super Bowl matchup. So that's what we're doing here. Both defenses in this matchup are good. So I think that the defense can kind of keep this game in check a bit, which can hold it to, in a range where it's lower scoring as well. So I like that aspect of this as well. And yeah, that's what we're going to do here, man. I think the line is just a bit high as well. Like I said, I think if those games 2 weeks ago didn't go the way that they did, and we didn't see a high-scoring shootout again, we didn't see the Seahawks put up 70-something points in 2 games, and the Patriots only putting up 50 or whatever in 3 games. If we didn't see that huge disparity there, I think this line would be closer to 3. So I do think we're getting some value here. We do have, the Seahawks have the more experienced quarterback technically, but neither quarterback is experienced in a Super Bowl in this level of game. So I don't think that's a huge advantage to Seattle. And on the other hand, I think the Patriots have the coaching edge because they got Vrabel, who's kind of been there, done that. He's coached more in the playoffs, I believe, than McDonald has when he was with Tennessee. He's used to it all, and the Patriots do still have their Super Bowl winning OC there, who was there for some of their Super Bowls, Josh McDaniels. So I think the coaching edge does go to the Patriots, the coaching experience edge as well, which is not to be overlooked. So we're going to be taking the points of the Patriots, like I said. I'm trying not to go into too great of detail with this. Also, there are some really, really good trends with the underdogs that I pointed out where I believe the underdog, has covered 9 of the last 10 Super Bowls or something like that. And definitely 4 of the last, in all of the last 5, I think 5-0 in the last 5, the underdog is covered, although we've had small-ish underdogs in some of them. But all of them except for the Bengals against the Rams won outright. And the Bengals probably shouldn't have covered, but let's not go there because I'm still mad about it. But they covered and didn't win in that one. And I had the Rams half on the money line and half on the spread in that one. So it was kind of that Super Bowl was a bit of a wash for me. I think it was a slight loss. But anyway, whatever. There are some good recent trends towards the underdogs in the Super Bowl. Let's just say that. We're not in the blowout era of football anymore, where you had these just massive blowouts up through like the 90s and whatever. We're not there anymore. Like, I don't think this is one of those games, one of those lopsided games. And anyway, go watch my Super Bowl video. You can see more analysis on that if you want. I basically said the same thing, though. As far as the total, I do agree with the under, but at 45.5, I don't know. I mean, 45 is kind of a key number, but 48 where it opened and 47 are also key numbers. It would have been a lot better to get the under 47. And it seems like the public has not been able to drive this number back up very much. So it's not going to be a total I'm going to want to play, but I do have other ways of playing the low-scoring nature of the game, which I've talked about many times, but I'll reiterate it again. We have 57% of tickets on the over, 70% of the cash on the under, though. I don't disagree with an under. I mean, I could see this game being low-scoring, but again, you're not really getting the greatest number anymore on that. And sometimes these Super Bowls will just go over in the late portions of the game. So as the teams get more comfortable and they start kind of loosening up their offense and doing some crazier things. But that leads me into the first prop that I gave out, which was no score in the first 6 minutes at minus 140. If you can find 6.5 minutes, you can get that price down. But the books just seem like they just don't offer it anymore because they know that the sharps just pick that off and win with it. And that's what I've been doing, like blindly, basically every year I do that because the vast majority of Super Bowls, this hits. And the public kind of doesn't like it because you usually have to lay a little bit of a favorite price on it. But what happens is these Super Bowls, especially when the teams are unfamiliar with each other like this, and you have good defenses. In this case, I think it's even more likely because you have good defenses and you have quarterbacks that just aren't that experienced here. So I think both offenses are not going to want to put the load on the quarterbacks early, and they're not going to want to do anything stupid early and not take huge risks early. So that's the way a lot of these Super Bowls go, man, is it's like a heavyweight fight, and you're feeling each other out for the first several minutes of the game. So looking for the game to be low scoring early is the way to play these Super Bowls. This is the way that I do it. Under in the first quarter was a good way of looking at it, but a lot of times you could get like a double-digit number on that. And if you get under the key number of 10, that was a pretty great approach as well. But you can't do it anymore, man. Like the number's like 8 in the first quarter in this Super Bowl. So this is my preferred approach. Go with no score in the first 6 minutes and just avoid. You got to avoid like some fluky like turnover, but I feel like that's pretty much it. And this has continued to hit. Like, I think the last time this didn't hit might have been the Tampa Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl. Was that what it was? No. It was Tampa Bay, Kansas City, right? I think it was that Super Bowl the last time this was a loser. If I remember, I'd have to go back and look, but I seem to remember that being the case. Something like that. But the Patriots are actually really notorious for having very low-scoring early Super Bowls with Tom Brady. Like, they hit this thing, I think, almost every single time in the Tom Brady era, and that may very well continue here, too. So I like that one quite a bit. If you can find a book that's giving you the 6.5 minutes, get a better price on it, I would do that, because I don't think that extra 30 seconds is going to matter, and it's probably better to get that price on it, but I couldn't find it. It's on a couple of different books, but it was there on the M. The one that I'm talking about here, the no score in the first 6 minutes was on DK, I'm pretty sure. FD might have it as well. But they were not offering the 6.5. I couldn't find those in any other places. There might be some off-the-shore locations that might have more granular ones, which is where I used to play some things, so that might be the case there too. The one that I just talked about, I'm pretty sure DK is where it is. This other one is on, well, MGM. I think we could probably say it. I don't know. Steve Merrill mentions them, so I don't know. This one, I'm pretty sure was, most of the books have this one, but they vary in price. So the best price I found was -155. Either team scores 3 consecutive times. I think this was on MGM, I'm pretty sure. I think a couple of the other books might have had it this low as well. And with the public coming in, the public likes to play no on this at plus money, because this is that mindfuck prop that I always talk about. I know there are a lot of professionals out there that are saying don't blindly play this anymore, but I don't even get what their reasoning is, because they're like, oh, well, but I'm like, why? Because the blowout era is over. But I'm like, yeah, but we're in the offense era of football now. Like, these are still two pretty decent offenses here, man, believe it or not, even though the defenses kind of take top billing with these teams, but the offenses are not bad. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but either team scoring 3 consecutive times. I think it was Steve Merrill who said this has only hit 5 of the last 10 years, but that doesn't seem right, because I play this every single time. And I thought that it had hit like 7 of the last 10. I'd have to go back and look, but I know that generally it does hit like 70-something% of games and of Super Bowls. And yeah, in the blowout era, it was, I guess, a bit easier to get it, but we're in the offense era of football, man. And still, it's a Super Bowl. It's good weather. It's going to be in the 60s. It's in California. It's in San Francisco. The weather isn't going to really impact anything. The offenses should be able to get something done in this game. Plus, there is also the potential for turnovers that can set up short fields, and that type of thing does help this prop. When a team scores and then they turn the other team over and they get another score right away, that helps this prop too. But it still happens much more often than it doesn't. I still think this is a cheap price. I still think that you can play this thing up to about -170, -180. I mean, the fact, if it hits like 70-something% of the time or whatever, then that basically means that it should be lined at like I don't know. I forget what the equivalent of it is. I should know this off the top of my head, but I think -200 maybe. Actually, probably even greater than that. I'll tell you in a second. Odds calculator. So I should stop eyeballing it, man. Implied probability calculator. Yeah, -170 is only 63%, and historically it does happen more than that. -155 is 61, less than 61%. You'd basically have to get up to about -230 or so, I would say. Maybe a little bit more than that, yeah. You'd have to probably get up to about at least -235 to actually have what I think is a fair line on this, to be honest. I don't know, although I guess because the guys are saying that, well, it's only happened 5 of the last 10. Okay, it still should be a heavier price than this. So I still think it's a cheap price. The public never thinks that this will happen, but it does way more often than it doesn't. So that's the other game flow prop that I have. The beach books, well, they're mostly in Europe. Yes. Okay, interesting. All right. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, so we have several books that are available here, and of course, those big ones are. All right, and then the other two props that I have, I gave out two player props. I kind of like having one on. Dude, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I feel like I'm forcing myself to do it now because I did it last year and they both won. Although we kind of got lucky with the Worthy prop last year because the game just got completely out of hand, and then the Eagles kind of just stopped going intense on defense, and the Chiefs just started going crazy on offense late in the game, but Worthy got way over, and it looked like that prop was dead. We had Worthy over his completion, or over his receptions, I think, but we're still going to do it. And again, the receptions and completion props, I think, are more predictable, you know what I mean? Because you don't need like any flukes to really happen. It's more of this like steady thing that's going to happen throughout the game. Although the first one that I gave out is a little bit fluky because it's Holani, the backup running back from the Seattle Seahawks, over 1.5 receptions. I found it at minus 135. I think it's a decent price out there. And when I talked about this, basically I said this was like a really under the radar one because nobody knows who this guy is. He just started playing when Charbonnet went down, but he's basically the replacement for Charbonnet. And I think you're getting a little bit of value on him because people still don't know his name. They don't know who he is. And if you look at how Seattle runs their offense, Kenneth Walker is the guy they're using he's the bruiser. He's the guy that is in there on the running plays. But on the passing plays, they usually switch it up to the other back. That was Charbonnet, but now it's going to be Holani. So I think he's going to get the majority of the snaps on passing downs, which I think is good. Especially, I think they're going to have a lot of passing downs too because the Patriots, both defenses in this game are good at stopping the run, especially the Patriots. So I think Seattle's going to have to be doing this repeatedly here. And for a quarterback like Sam Darnold, where they don't necessarily want him to be taking huge risks, he can be, checking it down, dumping it off to receivers, just in the flat, whatever, short passes. The beauty of this is basically that we don't need Holani to even get any yards on this. We just need him to make 2 catches for zero. I'm pretty sure that they could be 0 yardage catches and it would still count as receptions. So that's what we're going with here. Holani, when he's played, he has typically been able to haul these passes in. They're very high percentage targets, so he's usually not going to drop them because he's going to be catching them in space, like in the flat. And if you look at how Charbonnet was used, 4 of his last 5 games, he had 2+ receptions before he got injured, and then neither guy did in the Charbonnet injury game in San Francisco. That game was just out of hand anyway. I think Seattle just probably started running the football and whatever. And then in the most recent game, Holani did, I believe, have 2. I believe he had 2 receptions. No, he had 3, excuse me. He had 4 targets and 3 catches in the Rams game. So the guy in this role for Seattle has hit this in 5 of their last 7 games. So I like it. We're going to do that one. And then the other one that I gave out was Drake Maye over 19.5 completions at minus 120. You can find 20 out there at a pick'em price as well. Don't know if it's worth it to get it down a half point for the minus 120. I don't know, man. I know looking at what Maye has done in the playoffs, this looks like it's never going to happen because I don't think he's hit it. I think he might have hit it in the first playoff game, but didn't hit it since. But that's the whole thing, man. Like, you remember the Denver game, the weather just really came in and started impacting everything. So they had to change the way they were playing. That's not going to happen here. It's also not going to be cold like it was in New England. So I think you're going to be able to have an offense that's going to be able to do this more. But the reason why I like this is also that, well, Maye was able to do this more often than not this season. Like, I believe he did this in 10 or 11 games. I think he had at least 19, I think, in 11 games on the season. I know that's not 19 and a half, but he did have, I believe he did hit this number, I believe, in 9 of the games this season. So it was still the majority of games. But the beauty of this is who the defense is that they're playing, Seattle. And as I showed you the StatMuse graphics, although I pay for StatMuse, so I mean I somewhat recommend it just because when you want to look something up and have like a full sheet of data, it does help. It's not really that it is a monthly thing, but I don't think it's that expensive. I don't know. It might be like 10 a month or something. But the beauty of this is the way Seattle plays defense. They're a zone defense, and that means there are holes in the defense. They allow a lot of like short, high percentage pass plays, and I think that's also what the Patriots are going to want to do here, because I don't think they're going to be able to run the football terribly effectively against Seattle's defense. But Seattle does give up a lot of passes to tight ends, so that's going to help because, again, that's a high percentage target. But they also give up a ton of passes to running backs. So I showed you the graphics. Seattle has given up the most catches to running backs in the NFL this season. And it's all these like low percentage like checkdowns. So it doesn't kill Seattle because they're usually not high yardage pass plays, you know. They're checkdowns where Seattle does stop them from gaining yards, but they still allow the catch, right? So Seattle basically plays the type of defense where they're fine with allowing all these short catches, and then they hit you basically immediately. And that's another reason why I like this, man, because we don't care about the yardage here. We just need Maye to be hitting a lot of like high percentage targets during the game, and I think Seattle's defense is very conducive to that. So that's what we're doing. Those are the two props, man, the two player props, and that's it. That's the card for today. So those are all the Super Bowl props. Once again, the college basketball plays UNC-Greensboro plus the points. Super Bowl, we have Patriots plus the points. We have Holani over 1.5 receptions at a bit of minus money, though. Maye over his completions, 19.5 at minus money. I know these are all minus money, so we need to win 3 out of 4 of them to cash this. So that does get a little bit, it feels sketchy, but the percentage chance that these things happen, I think, is still worth it. No score in the first 6 minutes, or if you can find 6.5, that's what I would do. And then either team to score 3 consecutive times. I always play it. And then, of course, like I did, I mentioned some of the other ones. The length of shortest touchdown to be under 1.5 yards is another one of those mindfuck ones where it happens way more often than it doesn't, but I added it to my card last year just because of the tush push. I thought it made it even more likely, and it did hit again last year, but that's another one where the public is like, that's crazy. Like, you're asking, you're telling me I need exactly a 1-yard touchdown in this game, and it seems like it wouldn't happen, but it actually happens more often than it doesn't because of penalties in the end zone that set up teams at the 1-yard line. So it does happen more often than it doesn't. So there is that one as well. There is another one that I haven't really talked about that is a lot of professionals are on. Will there be a score in the final 2 minutes of the first half? Which is at I think it's probably at about minus 200 or something like that. It might be a little bit less than that, but that's another one where the public, they don't like to lay this minus money on, and they think that's kind of ridiculous. Like that it's not that high of a chance that that'll happen, but that's wrong. It happens way more often than it doesn't, because that's just the way the game flows. Like the team that has the ball at the end of the half, they're really, really trying to score and time manage, clock manage to try to get that score at the end of the half, even if it means kicking a field goal. And we have 2 good kickers in this game, too, and decent weather conditions. So you got Myers and Aurora Boregalis. They're both good kickers, man. So that helps that prop as well, the fact that a field goal can get you that prop, and you may very well see a long field goal attempt at the end of the first half. And with these kickers, they can get that thing done if that's what happens. So that is a decent prop as well. Even though you have to lay minus money on it, there is a reason for it. So I figured I would shout that one out as well. And I think that's it. You can go watch my Super Bowl special. I talked about other props. I talked about the novelty props. I can tell you that I've heard some professionals that handicap the Gatorade color, and they're going with yellow/green, and it needs to be all of that combined in one option, yellow-green. But I don't know why. I don't know what their thinking is behind that, because I had said blue because I think the Patriots have a decent chance to win, and I think if they do win, they're going to replicate what they did in their last Super Bowl win and the one where they beat Seattle. Both of those Gatorade colors were blue. So that was my analysis of it. I don't know where the yellow-green is really coming from, although I did say that if Seattle wins, I think they may be using yellow-green, though. So maybe that's what the theory is there. Maybe it's kind of a way to diversify, because I've heard there are guys who like the Patriots in the game, and they're playing like Drake Maye on MVP, basically as their way of playing the money line on it. Because I've mentioned the money line market usually gets swung towards the underdog, because the public loves to play money line underdogs because they like to just bet a little to win a lot, even if they're fading that team on the spread. So usually you actually get a decent price on the money line favorite in the Super Bowl. But if you like the money line underdog, you can play Drake Maye to win the MVP at like plus 240 or so, which is way better than playing the Patriots at like plus 190 or whatever. So that is a way, because probably the quarterback's going to get it. More often than not, the quarterback does get the MVP. So that's another way of playing the money line of the team that you think is going to win. But in this case, I think some of these guys might be using the yellow-green Gatorade as a way to play the Seahawks money line. And maybe they're doing that to diversify again, because some of those same guys have Maye to win MVP, have the Patriots on the spread. But it might be a way to diversify, and you do want to diversify. So that's the other thing. Like, you don't want to find like 7 different ways of playing one thing and play all of them. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to go like no score first 6 minutes and under in the first quarter and under in the first half, all those things, and just unload on every single one of those. You know what I mean? Because they're all kind of the same thing. And if one thing goes wrong, it could take all those things out. So you want to kind of diversify them with your props. I think you kind of want to play ones that could hit regardless of the score of the game. So I think that's what we're doing here as well with my player props here. I don't think they really have much of a bearing on who wins and who covers the game and whatever. So, and the game flow props as well don't really. So, that's a way to diversify it as well. Last year they all hit. Everything went well. We went 5-0 on the props last year. Don't expect that to happen again. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know if I have anything else. I thought there was one other thing. Oh, yeah, for the MVP, don't play a running back to win MVP. The running backs almost never win it. I guess because they're not flashy enough. They're like grinders. So usually it's the quarterback, but if it's not the quarterback, it'll probably be either a wide receiver or a linebacker. So that's another way to look at the MVP market. Although in this case, because it's two, first-time quarterbacks in the Super Bowl or whatever, unless the winning quarterback just really doesn't have a good performance and still manages to win the game, I think they're going to give it to the winning quarterback. I mean, we saw like Tom Brady in his first Super Bowl win. I'm pretty sure he got it, and his stats were atrocious in that game, and I think he still got it. So I'm pretty sure. Keep an eye out for stuff like that. That's going to do it, I think, man. Definitely not Eric. What's up, man? You like the blue Gatorade? Yeah, I mean, I think blue Gatorade is a decent look in that one, but I mean, I'm not really a Gatorade handicapper, though, but I can tell you that red has not occurred since before the year 2000, and recently, purple has taken precedence, but I don't know. This particular Super Bowl seems like it's not going to wind up being purple. And orange has been big for the last, 2 decades, but orange has kind of fizzled out and hasn't made that much of an appearance recently, so I don't know. And in the history of the Patriots, it's always been no Gatorade at all, blue or clear is what the Patriots have used in, all of their Super Bowls, since their era started. So purple has better odds for a no than others. Oh, I wasn't looking. I haven't seen the yes no. I was just looking at the multi prop on its own. But yeah, I mean purple was like the Chiefs thing for some reason. The Chiefs used purple for multiple of their Super Bowls, but I don't think it's going to be purple in this one. That's going to do it. Let's get some wins. Let's enjoy the festivities. And I usually talk about, Super Bowl food as well. I don't know. I usually talk about that, too. But I always kind of just say the same thing, man. I mean, for Super Bowl parties, for snack food, I mean, you want something that's going to be something that you can carry around with, a plate, basically. And it's not going to be that much of a mess, and you don't have to worry about it too much. So, you know what I mean? So, wings, and probably just don't overdo the sauce on the wings. Wings are an obvious one. Pizza probably works fine as long as it's not some crazy messy pizza. One where the slice is like compact enough that you can carry it around. Maybe like some smaller pizza. Party pizza, basically. You know those ones that are the big squares. They're cut into like rectangles. Can carry those around. Not a bad idea. I know a lot of people like nachos. I don't know about the nachos. I mean, I don't know. For some reason, I don't think they're that like portable when you're walking around. So I don't know. I don't love the nacho idea, although I like nachos. But I don't know about that necessarily, unless you want to just hang out like around the snack table for a while, and hang out and eat them there. I don't know, maybe some other like meats, some like small sausages, mini burgers, like sliders and mini hot dogs are actually not a bad idea. You can carry those things around, even though it seems like more of a summer like cookout type of food, but yeah. Hell yeah. Drumsticks, add your own sauce. Yeah, nachos, yeah, they're just not portable enough. Sliders are pretty portable. Like, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. Burger sliders, man. Or like if maybe not even sliders, but like you can have like some burgers that are like somewhat small and compact. You can still carry those things around probably. I don't know. But sliders I think is a decent idea. Then you don't overdo it, because if you want to try, me, I like to try like basically everything that's on like a spread. Like I want to try at least one of everything just so I have the full picture, the full mix of everything. So having, a slider instead of a full-size burger helps me do that without overdoing it, And then, and then of course like beer is probably the obvious drink of choice, although as a now sober man, I am doing the non-alcoholic beers now, and I do have a few of I'll probably have a few of those today, but yeah, the full experience, yes, correct. But yeah, I guess that's going to do it. I don't know. I always love talking about food, but then I wind up taking you on the Boston food tour. That's not what I want to do here. We're just talking about Super Bowl foods. I know it's all like typical Super Bowl food stuff. You know what? Also, for the wings, you know what? I would almost maybe even prefer boneless, because there's less of a mess. Like you don't, like there are no bones that get left behind. You know what I mean? Like obviously the bone-in wings have more flavor and whatever, but for a party food where you're going to be carrying it around and whatever, the boneless wings might even make more sense, because then you can just devour that thing. You don't really have to worry about anything. You just got to throw well, I guess either way, you just got to throw the plate away, even with the bones. I guess it doesn't matter that much, but also with the bones, you're kind of doing, I don't know, you kind of got to two-hand the thing. Boneless might make it a little bit easier. I don't know. Or like maybe you could go like chicken fingers. I don't know. And maybe with some fries in the mix there or something. All right. I think that's going to do it, I guess. And then, people will have, some of those like side dishes on the table too. I don't know how well those work out though. Like, I'm going to put some mac and cheese on my plate and walk around with it. I don't know, potato salad. I don't know. I like those things, but I don't know if I'm going to do that, like walking around with something like that. All right. That's going to do it, man. Enjoy all the games and the food and the parties and whatever. I might be a little bit snowed in up here. I don't know. We got a decent amount of snow yesterday up here. I think it's done now, but we'll see like how plowed it is out there. Cheese cubes. I like it. I like cheese. If you do that, you probably have to have some like meat, like some cold cut meat on like sticks and whatever, you know what I mean? To go with it, like have like ham cubes with it, pepperoni cubes with it. That's not too bad. My mom used to make, I don't know if she would still do it, but she used to make calzones that were, like she made her own calzones with like a bread maker, and those calzones, she made like pepperoni and cheese, ham and cheese. You cut, and chicken, I think she made a chicken one at some point too. You cut those things up and they're in small enough pieces that those pieces of calzone are pretty transportable, believe it or not. So those are pretty good. $1 on the octopus. Gonna get whatever it is, $80 out of it. The books, they love the people to play. They want the people to play the octopus, man. Because I think Jalen Hurts actually did it once, right? So everybody loves the octopus now, but I don't think it's gonna happen, man. Very, very unlikely to happen. You don't get good enough odds on it. 65. I think it's like 30 here, if that, maybe 20s. Meatballs, yeah. I mean, meatballs, depending on how drenched they are in sauce or whatever. Yeah. I was going to say the Smokies, like mini, like sausages, basically. Yeah. On like a stick. Those are easy to eat, carry around. Yeah. Like on like toothpicks. Yeah. Whatever. As long as the meatball isn't, dripping sauce all over the place. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, man. That's gonna do it. And to go along with the nacho chip theme, you could have like a buffalo chicken dip as well, but that kind of gets into the same problem as the nachos, where it's like kind of a messy thing, and you kind of have to just eat it while you're standing around the table, and then and not walk around with it. But I like buffalo chicken dip, but maybe not for a portable party snack there. That's gonna do it, man. And you got to have chips out, though. Like, have some chips around. That's kind of a standard. You can just munch on those. That's going to do it. I don't even know what my favorite chip is, really. I don't know what would I say is. It's got to be like, I don't know, like those like jalapeno, like kettle cooked chips. That's what I like, that type of thing. It's got crunch to it, and it's a little bit spicy. All right. I'm going to get out of here. That's going to do it. Thanks, everybody. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Oh, I forgot to take my screen down, too. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. Let's get some wins here. Even though the fan base is going to be insufferable if the Patriots actually win. I don't know if I want to deal with it, but let's get it done, man. Peace.